We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live.
Terence Crawford, radical fans trying to tear down Yordenis Ugas because Errol Spence was the one whose team got the Ugas fight. But I'm going to explain without a shadow of a doubt why that doesn't make sense in this video, and I'll leave no stone unturned. We unpack. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I don't want to have too much of an intro. This man you see on the screen is being disrespected. The man just beat Manny Pacquiao. It's up to my promoter, Bob Aaron, right? He just beat Pacquiao. And now I'm seeing a lot of people who are lashing out because they don't want to see Errol Spence. I'm just going to break it down as bluntly as possible. They do not want to see Errol Spence as the big fish. Errol Spence, it was widely reported. I made videos about it. This man, Ugas, has got the Errol Spence fight. Errol Spence has got the Ugas fight, and it's a unification. Who does that leave in the dust? Oh yeah, Terence Crawford, who in my opinion has made questionable choices in his career. And I'm gonna explain how all these negative thoughts, I've heard people say Errol's scared, Errol's weak for picking a weak guy and a weak champion and things like that. But we now have solid evidence that even Team Crawford respects Ugas, and they have for some while. So stay tuned and watch this complete video, throw a like on it, and I'll prove why that whole notion that Ugas is so weak and terrible now that Errol Spence has got him, you know, doesn't make sense, because Crawford's own team has showed Ugas the utmost respect and said at a point that they wanted to get the fight. So now that he's coming off a Manny Pacquiao fight, there's nothing anyone can say negative about a 3-belt unification. The only thing you could be mad at is if you want to see Terence Crawford get the Errol Spence fight, which is inherently harder to make, and you were upset because Terence Crawford, you know, has to play the back seat and Errol Spence has a crack at a 3rd belt. These are the realities, and I will prove it with irrefutable evidence. You know, a matter of fact, roll the clip. So this is the clip. This is from Trill Boxing Talk, and this was from 2018. And we'll listen to Terence Bud Crawford's trainer and what he had to say back in 2018 about Yordenis Ugas. Let's go.
It's another young cat, man, that's he's kind of like a solid killer. His name is Ugas.
Yeah, I know.
His name is Ugas.
He said there's another dude who's a solid killer named Ugas, referring to Yordenis Ugas. Again, this is from September 2018. So Bomac, who's Crawford's longtime trainer and friend, is giving Ugas his credit.
He's kind of like a solid killer. His name is Ugas.
Yeah, I know.
His name is Ugas. He's the #1 for the IBF, which is Spence belt.
And right there, he did say something that also was truthful. Terence Crawford's trainer, Bomac, he said that Ugas was the #1 ranked for Errol Spence's belt, meaning he was Errol Spence's mandatory. So this is way back when. So when people have a problem with Errol Spence and Ugas now happening, this is a fight that's really been made on PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, and it's been a long time coming. And Ugas is just now getting his bars up to the point where everything has manifested and is falling into his lap and falling into place. But he's been working towards getting the bigger fights. He lucked out with Pacquiao because Errol Spence, of course, had the eye injury and he had to withdraw from the fight. But Ugas has been trying to fight Errol Spence, and he's even called it out. So it's been a long time coming and an uphill battle ever since he lost in the past to get those looks.
That's he's kind of like a solid killer. His name is Ugas.
Yeah, I know
His
that
name is
dude.
Ugas. He's the number one for the IBF, which is Spence belt, and a lot of fighters don't talk about him, man, because Ugas is real dangerous.
Ugas is real dangerous, and a lot of people don't talk about him. So Bomac in 2018 is giving full credit to Ugas for being a killer. And even though he acknowledges in this interview that he knows Ugas had some losses, but he's bounced back and he's super dangerous.
Belt, and a lot of fighters don't talk about him, man, because Ugas is real dangerous. You know, he's lost twice, but you know, he got a new team now. They out in Vegas and shit, man. And this cat is on the roll.
He said he got a new team and this cat is on a roll and he's real dangerous. He flipped his whole team, left top rank, which Terence Crawford just now did. And he said he's on a roll and he's now the number one seed at that time for Errol Spence. Now, fast forward to the future, he just beat Pacquiao and retired a Hall of Famer and a legend, and he's fighting Errol Spence. So let's keep going.
And actually, that cat beat Terence in the amateurs at the Pan Am Games.
Wow. Bomac reveals what I already knew, but this might be news to some of you. In the amateurs, Ugas of Cuba beat Terence Crawford in the Pan Am Games. So not only is he giving props to Ugas when he was Errol Spence's number one mandatory, but he's also revealing to those that didn't know, Terence Crawford already fought Ugas in the AMs, and Ugas beat Crawford, right? So they know him all too well.
And actually, that cat beat Terence in the amateurs at the Pan Am Games.
Yeah.
And so that dude is on our radar. You might as well get him out the way. And when he gets knocked out the way, hey, we might as well go on and lock it on in with Spence after that.
So Bomac, who's also, in addition to trainer, is Terence Crawford's manager, he just revealed in this same interview that they want to line up Ugas and get him out the way. Get Ugas out the way, right? And then fight Errol Spence. Keep in mind, this is 2018, and none of these fights manifested. So I'll let you guys listen one more again.
You might as well get him out the way.
See, get him out the way.
That dude is on our radar.
Ugas.
Yeah.
And so that dude is on our radar. You might as well get him out the way. And when he gets knocked out the way, hey, we might as well go on and lock it on in with Spence after that.
Wow.
And that should be like towards the end of the year, around this time next year.
So y'all going?
He said, get Ugas, he's on our radar, knock him out the way, and then around this time the following year, which would be 2019, then we take on Spence. But guess what? Like I've been saying on my channel, every single fight that Bomac and Terence Crawford and Top Rank said they were trying to get for Terence Crawford, they, for whatever reason, could not secure those fights, especially at those times, right? So let's give you guys a refresher. Smash the like button. Terence Crawford's team for 8 years, Chase Pacquiao, said they're trying to get Manny Pacquiao. In the last 2 years or so, right before Pacquiao fought Ugas and retired, it was really supposed to be Errol Spence. They said they're going to fight Pacquiao in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi or Qatar. Back-to-back years, it failed. And I'll show you that in a second. They also, based on this interview that you're now hearing from Terence Crawford's trainer and manager, Bomac, he's saying we want to knock out Ugas because he's a killer and that'll be revenge from the amateurs. And he's a great fighter. So he's giving Ugas all the props in the world years ago. And they never got Ugas. They never made that fight happen, even though they respected him. And he beat Terence Crawford in the amateurs. And then, per his own words in this very interview, he says, then we should be fighting Errol Spence around 2019, which would be a year. He said a year from now. And this was an interview from 2018. So from 2018 or better, Team Crawford has promised Ugas fights, Errol Spence fights, and Manny Pacquiao fights, and that's just to name some. and none of them happened. So this is the predicament that Terence Crawford is in. And I got to give you guys some gems right now. I told you this is going to be a good unpacked. This interview was from September 2018. So if Bomac, the trainer and manager of Terence Bud Crawford, respected Yordenis Ugas from knowing him from the amateurs way back in 2018, and right now, this is days before Christmas, meaning it's the end of 2021. We're headed into 2022, right? So if you respected Ugas then in 2018 and you were saying things like he's dangerous, he's deadly, this guy's a killer, he has early loss, he's lost a couple times, 2 times or whatever, and he flipped and got a new team and he's on a roll. These were Bomac's words specifically. I just let you listen to it. And if you didn't hear it, rewind this track and picture me rolling. So again, the point I'm making is if you respected Ugas's gangster in 2018, how could people be trying to ish on him now that Errol Spence off injury, which is a whole separate danger because this man got in a car wreck, took Danny Garcia as his tune-up, then he's off of an eye injury, which could be career-ending for some. Abner Mares pulled out of the Gervonta Davis fight with the same type of injury, a detached retina. He hasn't been back since. He's been doing purely commentary. So again, I question, and I implore you to answer the question factually. If Team Crawford respected Ugas in 2018 when he was Errol Spence #1 mandatory, boom, how can you not respect him now when he's never been stopped? His record has improved. He's now 27-0. And oh yeah, that's right. He's coming off the best career performance and win against the most famed and acclaimed name that he's ever fought, that he got a win over, which is Manny Pacquiao, an 8 division champion, and he beat him decisively. Pacquiao has over 70 fights at the point in which they fought. Look, 62, 7 losses, 2 draws. That's 9 fights right there. So that's over 70 fights of experience. And Manny Pacquiao was retired by Ugas. And I know now people are going to hate and say, oh, Pacquiao was old and stuff like that. But some of these same people picked Pacquiao to beat Ugas, and they picked him to beat Errol if he would have fought. So you can't use that card like, oh, Pacquiao's old, because why did people pick him to win, right? So once again, if you respected Ugas way back in 2018 when he was fighting the Cesar Miguel Barrion Nuevos of the world, look at what he's done since. The very next year, he fought Sean Porter before Errol Spence and before Terence Crawford. And as I've always maintained, Ugas should have won the fight, and they robbed him of a knockdown, which, just like the Mean Machine Crawford fight, they didn't list as a knockdown. So again, if Bomac and Team Crawford respected Ugas in 2018, look what he's done since. Really beat Sean Porter, in my opinion. He fought Omar Figueroa, who beat Errol Spence in the amateurs. And the same year, he beat him one-sided, right? He fought Mike Dallas Jr., and he fought Abel Ramos, who's about to fight Jose Cito Lopez on the Keith Thurman Barrios undercard. And then again, he fought Manny Pacquiao and retired him. So it's looking bad for the Terence Crawford radicals who are now trying to, since Terence Crawford didn't get these fights, make these fights appear to be bad. Because I tweeted this. It says, to be honest, Ugas's resume is greater than Crawford's resume. And some people had different things to say. I said Pacquiao was the name Team Crawford said they would get for 7 or 8 years, whereas Ugas ended up getting him with Errol being injured and being forced to withdraw, and Ugas retired the legend. These are all facts. Crawford's sister, she responded and she just said, F them. I mean, but that still doesn't take away from what I just said and the facts. And then this dude, whoever this dude, he said, nah, Ugas lost to inferior competition, Porter excluded. So how could we exclude somebody on his resume, right? So it is looking bad because, again, a lot of people had things to say. And I even see some of the radical fans of Terence Crawford who are finding ways to try to make it look like Ugas is this terrible for Errol Spence, and it's like as if it's not a danger. But you just heard Team Crawford in 2018, before he fought Porter, before he fought Omar Figueroa, before he retired Manny Pacquiao. So those are significant wins. Abel Ramos, before all those fights. And Team Crawford themselves were giving Ugas credit and telling you that Ugas beat Crawford in the amateurs. So again, I'm always going to stand with the truth, and I'm always going to stand for what's right. Ugas deserves big fights. It's a unification. Again, he's made the right decisions. He left Top Rank. Top Rank didn't really put him on primetime TV, if you know what I'm talking about, right? So they discarded him as soon as he, they were willing to let him go. He's good enough to beat Pacquiao, but Top Rank was willing to let him go at the first signs of danger when he was losing, right? And he worked hard to get in the position that he is, and he was the understudy for Errol Spence. Errol Spence pulls out with the eye injury, boom. The understudy steps up and pulls off the upset. To me, it's not an upset. I knew Ugas stylistically would be problems for Pacquiao, and I told you that. Ego Stradamus strikes again. But for fans to take this man who is really defected to America, and he's really the American dream, and because they're angry because another fight that they want is not happening, and to disparage and send disparaging comments and words to Ugas, that's not right. And again, now those same fans look foolish, especially since I dug up the clip where only Team Crawford themselves are giving Ugas problems. So again, you can't cry over spilled milk because Bud didn't make the decisions or wasn't able to corral these fights, and now all these things are bad fights, right? Now these are bad fights, and it just, that doesn't make sense. After Ugas beat Pacquiao, Bud tweeted that he was mad, that he was upset. He said, Errol Spence, I know you upset, dog, but Errol Spence is not upset because he's with the winning team that got the winner, just like he requested. He said, I'll be back. I've been taught to get out of, get through tough situations. But Terence Crawford, I remember he tweeted something like that. He said, oh, Errol, you got to be mad. Errol's not mad because he's getting the unification with the winner. It's Terence Crawford that's probably upset because these are the fights that have eluded him for whatever reason, the choices he's made or whatever you want to label it as, right? Terence Crawford also said this, and I mean, you guys tell me. I'll try to put it on the screen so you guys can see. So this is after Ugas beat Pacquiao. Crawford says, man, it's funny how they walked Ugas into saying fight an injured man, referring to Errol Spence because he had the eye injury. This is, of course, after the Pacquiao-Ugas fight, August of this year. So this is an older tweet, but I have to bring it up. He says, it's funny how they walked Ugas into saying fight an injured man, Errol Spence. Now they're already trying to put that fight in the media. They're not trying to put the fight in the media. It was a known thing that they were going to make the fight because it's an easy fight to make. It's a unification. And Errol Spence says he does not want any tune-ups. He says, makes me think a little bit, crying emoji. They play a dirty game, don't they? So Terence Crawford is under the impression that someone's playing a dirty game, but to me, it's not really a dirty game. People are just handling business as usual. And if you don't want to, be in the same playground or handle that same business, then the business will move on with or without you. So I don't think it's a dirty game at all. I think business is business. Nothing, everything in business, it's not, if you're not represented by a certain agency, and I know this is hard for some people to consume, but if you're not represented by a certain entity, they owe you nothing. You're not their employee. You're not their fighter. You're not part of their stable. It's not up to them to enforce and absolutely make sure that your business is as smooth as possible. Especially like I can understand if there was no other fights for them to make and everything was reliant on them. But Errol Spence told you from the beginning, I'm going to clean up my side of the street. And that's literally what he's doing. Why would Errol Spence, if he can easily work with Sean Porter in 2019, coming off an accident. They already had a fight agreement to fight Danny Garcia. And then now Ugas, and these guys are willing to work behind the scenes, and they're not asking for 60-40 splits where they get the lion's share of money like Terence Crawford with his one belt. You know, why would they not do those fights at the very least, at the bare bones minimum first, instead of dealing with this outsider and black sheep of sorts that believes his worth is more than what his old promoter Bob Arum is saying it is. This is just basic business. And again, Crawford had to know the deal because before his last fight with Top Rank, which was Porter in November, I believe it was, he said this in August. He said, now they're trying to make Errol, Spence, and Ugas. Of course they're trying to make it. So he knew the game plan, and I'll wait to see what Terence Crawford decides, but I don't think it'll be PBC. I think he'll probably try to work, like I said, like I've been saying, with Daniel Kinahan, Pro Bellum, MTK, something like that, versus if he would have, went to PBC, that'll probably set him up nicely for all the fights he's clamoring for. And he has to have known this. He just said, oh, it makes me think a bit. So if it made you think a bit, then you should know what the obvious choice is. But to each his own, But for the fans who are trying to make Ugas look like he's a bad fighter and stuff, that gotta stop. Errol Spence is an easy fight to make. It's a unification, and it's a great fight. And again, the reason why I have to unpack it like the way I'm doing it is because I've seen it. I said Ugas to me has a better resume than Crawford. His sister said F them, and some people acting like they disagree. So you guys let me know in the comment section if you disagree. What name, since I'm showing you Ugas's box rec, which is containing all his fights, he fought Sean Porter in 2019 before Errol, which means it was before Terence Crawford just got him in 2021, 2 years later, when Sean Porter is a podcaster and was on a 450 plus day layoff, right? What name matches well with the 2019 Sean Porter who is willing to do the training? Because Sean Porter and his dad both pretty much told you that Sean didn't train like Kenny wanted him to. And he's like, I couldn't give my dad 100% and all this stuff. That's not my words. That's what Sean Porter and Kenny said. And with Manny Pacquiao, that's a legendary name that Ugas is coming off right before the Errol Spence fight. This is who just beat Pacquiao. So for people to try to make it look like Errol Spence is fighting, like I've seen all types of stuff. Some people saying, oh man, Errol Spence is scared. He's scared because he's fighting a easy fight. What are you talking about easy? In 2018.
It's another young cat, man, that's he's kind of like a solid killer. His name is Ugas.
In 2017 or 18, when this interview came about, Bomac, Crawford's own trainer and longtime trainer and manager, is saying there's this guy named Ugas, and we checking for him. He beat Crawford in the amateurs. He's a killer, and he paid him a lot of homage. And again, this is all before Ugas fought the Sean Porters of the world, and these are the best names. The run that Ugas is on, if you look at the dates, Manny Pacquiao this year, Abel Ramos last year, Mike Dallas last year, Omar Figueroa 2019, Sean Porter 2019. So if you respected Ugas when he was fighting these type of Jonathan Batistas and he just beat Ray Robinson, then how could you not respect him now that he really should have beat Sean Porter? He beat Omar Figueroa, Mike Dallas, Abel Ramos, and of course, Manny Pacquiao, as I keep saying. So it just shows you that people are crying over spilled milk. They are upset that Terence Crawford has not made the business decisions to positively impact his career, to get the fights that he wants, which I've went over several times. And Errol Spence and others are getting those fights. Errol Spence told you when he got the Pacquiao fight, which he did get, as you can see, he said hashtag blame Bob. So he told you, he said, I'm the big fish, hashtag blame Bob. The only reason And Crawford, he was seemingly almost like looked relieved that Errol Spence didn't get the Pacquiao fight, you know, based on some stuff he had tweeted, which that's kind of a crab in the barrel mentality. How are you going to be mad at Errol Spence or whatnot for getting the fight? Pacquiao left Top Rank, just like Ugas was released from Top Rank, and Andy Ruiz and Floyd and Cotto and others. And Pacquiao did business with Al Heyman and closed his career with Al Heyman. So Broner, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, no questions asked. And then it turned out to be Ugas because Errol, again, with the eye injury. All these guys that are with Al Heyman all got an opportunity in a crack at Pacquiao before Terence Crawford, who was on the same roster as Pacquiao for 8 years. You can't, I mean, this stuff you can't make up. You cannot make this stuff up. Terence Crawford detailed regrets over Pacquiao fight, right? Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, the fight has collapsed. Look, I'm showing you. This is all my homework. Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, April of this year. So it looks like a lot of sour grapes. What else? Manny Pacquiao, Crawford. Look, so this is what they told people. The fight is all but dead. Look, the fight it says funding reportedly the reason the fight never materialized. So this is Crawford's team. They weren't able to get the fight, as I've been vehemently telling you. You know, Crawford leaves behind the heartbreak of his failed fight with Pacquiao. These are the reports that it shows. Your team didn't get these fights done. So for Crawford fans, it sounds like a lot of the diehard fans, the radical fans, sour grapes, because guess what? Errol Spence got the Pacquiao fight. He couldn't make it to the actual fight date. Ugas got the fight. And then now, because Errol had to step out, another easy fight to make, all in-house with another Al Heyman fighter, is going down. And that's the unification that Ugas has earned the hard way. This man really rebuilt his career. That's why I said that's the Ugas slander that I'm seeing is not right. The Ugas slander is not right. He's a sharp fighter coming off the best win of his career. He's being reasonable with his side of the money, obviously, because the fight got done. So why would Errol Spence, off of an injury, and if a person has publicly said that they want more money than the big fish, why even be bothered with that and secure the easier fight to make? I mean, it's just common sense. And that's how you put together the facts. Checkmate. Let me know how I did. I'm out. We unpacked. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster.